The FNRad Snowboard podcast is presented by Vans.
Oh yeah, I wanted to be absolutely not attractive to snowboarders.
Maybe we need an injection of that, because it'd be interesting.
And I didn't sign the contract, probably just had it in my bag for a couple of months.
And we're all like, oh, that's just banging, let her run.
We pushed each other to become better.
Front three-tailed it.
Season 5 of the FNRad Snowboard podcast is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, Anon Optics, Crow's Nest Barbershops, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Support for the show also comes from Cypress, Grouse and Mount Seymour, the 3 local mountains here in Vancouver. This week, I exclusively used my Anon Sync goggles while riding, and I did ride a lot. It was a great storm cycle. The Anon Sync goggle makes it easy to see clearly in more conditions. Utilizing the magic of magnets, this comfortable style simplifies swapping out your lens and allows you to snap in your face mask for quick storm coverage. I keep an extra lens in my jacket pocket and can swap it out on the chairlift without even taking the goggles off my face. That's quite nice. So go buy some Anon goggles at your local shop. You'll be stoked. Jody Wachniak is a man boy and a professional snowboarder, and he's the man behind the Airtime podcast. He was kind enough to come down from Whistler in the middle of a storm cycle to be interviewed at the Vancouver No Show. I'm a big fan of everything Jody does, and I was honored to have him on the show. We recorded this one in front of a live audience, so a huge thanks goes out to Vans for setting me up with a full-on FNRad podcast booth. And I take you now to my interview with Jody Wachniak. Check. I can only hear myself in here.
Do you travel around with one of those?
No, just this.
That thing is
just that.
I don't know. Dude,
I'll show you.
My audio levels are so shitty.
Mine are worse.
Mine only do good when I'm at my house because my house is so small that it sounds epic in it because it doesn't like echo.
Yeah.
But as soon as you change your space, you know what I mean? We're not live right now.
We're live right now, and we're recording.
Oh, wow.
Can people hear us? This is the FNRad Snowboard Podcast.
Sick.
I'm Spread Jesus, and I've got with me the one, the only, legendary Jody Wachniak from the Airtime Podcast.
Yes.
From K2 Snowboarding, Vans Snowboarding, recently Ashbury, is that right?
That's correct.
Fuck yeah. Well, who else you got?
Now I can't screw this up now. This
is important. Your guys are here, and they're listening.
Billabong.
Oh, yeah.
And Airhole.
Sick.
Stance.
Yeah.
Those guys all got booths over here, around here.
Yeah.
And, Ergogenics. It's like plant-based smoothie stuff that keeps me feeling good.
I'm getting new greens. Are they fighting like our podcasts are fighting?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to have your greens. Is this like, can everybody in the show hear us right now?
I think I hear it's like everywhere.
Oh, this is crazy.
Yeah, now I'm nervous.
I'm not nervous. I'm fine. How's everybody doing? There's free beers over there. The guy in the striped shirt's handing them out like they're candy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
It's full-on happy hour at the No Show.
It is. Look at me.
Yeah.
Caesar, beer, pizza on the beer.
I got a tomato juice.
Look at this. This Caesar went from being $8 to like 40 or like 20. That's the special right there. Caesar with a piece of pizza.
That's sick.
That's done right.
So when did you start snowboarding? I already know all this stuff. I know your whole life story.
I started snowboarding in, 98.
Oh my God.
99.
I was already retired.
Yeah, see that exact. I mean, I was like 10.
I was like way more than 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started out in 98 riding a place called Spring Hill Winter Park in Manitoba.
Hell yeah.
And those runs are pretty short, pretty cold. I mean, everyone here is complaining about the weather being cold here, but it's like minus 40 there. Some days it's like minus 50, and the entire city closes down. They're like, yeah, your kids can't go to school or they're probably going to like die and shit.
It's too cold.
It's kind of crazy.
But it's sunny, right? Like that was how it was where I grew up.
Yeah, totally.
It's cold
Where are
and
you
sunny.
from?
Sudbury, Ontario is where I left. But I grew up mostly in Orillia, which is south of there.
Yeah, it was mainly sunny, I got to say, but it's sunny and just cold.
You go into school and your shit is frozen.
Yeah.
And you
Eyelids.
your eyelids and your nose. Every time you breathe, your shit's freezing.
Dude, the
together.
nose.
The nose. Is
Nobody in
insane.
Vancouver even knows about the eyes and the nose.
Yeah, I had frostbite.
not even a thing.
I had frostbite on my ears, on the ears, right? Like, because even though you're freezing cold, you can't wear shit that shows that you're cold.
Yeah, I know. When you're a kid, you're really proud to be like
I don't know if we're
showing
allowed
up
to
in
swear.
shorts.
Okay, we can't swear maybe.
It's a snowboard trade show. We're good.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, we don't need to.
No, I swear a lot if I'm around somebody that I'm I'm nervous around.
Oh,
so
I'm
not too nervous
stressing.
around you.
I'm also wearing a puffy jacket right now.
Yeah.
I didn't dress appropriately for today, but
Yeah.
I mean, I was driving around all morning today around Vancouver trying to find snowboard spots to film on, and I found none.
Really?
So if anybody at the trade show has any spots they want to give me, I'm over here at the booth. Please give me your snowboard spots.
Yeah, my spots here are no good.
Or else Vans is going to drop me, and then next time I won't be able to do this, you know?
Oh, I'll always have you on the show, whoever your sponsors
perfect.
are.
There we go.
Yeah. So let's fast forward all the way to now. I listen to you guys on the Man Boys podcast because I just listen to every snowboard podcast I can. Not to dish Man Boys. It was a great podcast. It's awesome. And it was fun to hear you guys bemoan the difficulties of being professional snowboarders and how hard it is to keep girlfriends. That seemed like the theme of the Man Boys show was like, man, is your girlfriend pissed at you? Yes. Because
That's
you're
true.
always away. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a pro anything and you have a girlfriend, they're not happy about it.
Right.
Because they don't take your job serious because it's just like it's just a joke. They're like, oh, you have to go surfing today, or you have to go snowboarding, or you have to go do moto, you have to go skate. They're like, I have to go to a job.
To a real job.
A real job. And you're going snowboarding today and you're complaining that your front five didn't work out or
and
whatever.
when you're not at your job,
Yeah.
you're just, when you're at your job or not at your job, you're doing the same thing.
Exactly. I don't know. It's hard to make them happy. But eventually you read enough books. That's what I did. And then you start nailing your relationship.
What was the book that got?
Oh, the
got
5
you?
love languages I read.
Ken Hawk told me about that book. He's like 5
a good
love
book.
languages. He's like, yeah,
I'll plug it.
he's like, damn, if I would have read this book, I wouldn't have got a divorce. I was
Dude, I was like so in my head for so long.
Yeah.
And then, I started reading. I mean, a good thing I heard from, I don't know if it was Devin, maybe like one of the pro older guys that was on DC. I think it was maybe Devin. Or it might have been Laurie. Doesn't matter. Anyways, they were kind of telling me that it's weird that everybody studies so much about school. They study about snowboarding, they study about skateboarding, they study about science, whatever they're into. They put all this energy in so they can be a professional. It's like nobody's born a professional at a relationship. No. Like, why aren't people, reading books on that shit, I don't know. So at one point I realized that I wasn't a professional at it. I was clueless, and I could get better at it because I'm not afraid to admit that shit. I was weak, dude.
Your game was weak.
My game was weak, dude. It was all about me. I was just like structured in my head, just like, yo, what do I need in this relationship? But apparently a relationship's a two-way streak, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's, I remember that I was complaining to Sean Kearns that I kept talking over the guests. And he was like, dude, a conversation's supposed to be like 50-50. And I was like, oh, shit.
No. That Kearns podcast is probably the best snowboard podcast to date.
Yeah.
That episode is...
his? Oh, you mean of mine?
Yours.
Oh,
with Kearns,
that is
dude?
high praise. Thank you very much.
Dude, that one is amazing.
Yeah, that changed my life, that just going over there, and we're recording this. I'm almost tempted not to say it, but he wouldn't be... he didn't want to be edited, so I won't be edited. He got me so high. I was so fucked up. And not on like weed, like on some like truth serum shit, Like I was like, oh my God. And I realized in that moment that the face-to-face interaction is important. You've done that on all yours. You haven't had any phone-in stuff.
I did the same thing. I did a little bit of research on it.
The drugs. You did heavy drugs.
I did heavy drugs. Done heavy drugs. Or what's that Mitch Hedberg quote again? He's just like,
I used to do drugs.
I still do drugs, but I used to too.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Mitch Hedberg. Big shout-outs to that. That's the best comedian there is. Other than maybe Chris Farley. Chris Farley, Mitch Hedberg.
Was good. Yeah, Farley was good. They were different.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Can't really compare the two. too.
I just saw Hannibal Buress down in Irvine, California at the mall.
And how was that?
Eviscerated the crowd. He's the funniest dude.
Eviscerated? That's the reason why we don't got to swear right there. You're using words like eviscerated. Like, I've never even heard that word in my life.
He destroyed so hard. It was the best. He's my favorite. He's so much fun.
We only get, like, Just for Laughs over in Winnipeg, you know?
Oh, yeah.
The Red Green show and stuff, like duct tape show, or just like...
That sucks.
It sucks. It's not good.
That is the worst. Canadian comedy, man. I don't know why. Like, this hour has 22 minutes or whatever. Like, stop doing that.
They got 2 minutes that are good and 20 minutes that you're like, yo, can you just make this a 2-minute show instead of the 22 minutes? You could like chop some of that shit
We're
out.
hating on radio because we're the new radio.
Oh, we can do a
podcasts.
It's non-filtered, dude.
Yeah. So when did you break away from the Man Boys and do your thing? What was that all about? Tell us about that beef.
There was no beef. There's no falling out. It was just that I think that I really liked it, and they just kind of liked it. And at one point, I was like, I want to do this. I just want to do this. I like talking. People who know me know I like to talk. And I was like, I'm just going to do this. You guys can keep doing your thing, too. Like, do your thing. But, like, I'm going to do my own. And I kind of wanted to structure it a certain way. And like anything, when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, eventually you just need to be like, you know what? I think my ideas are kind of dope. And even if I don't, this is what I kind of want it to sound like. And I didn't want a bunch of other people to be like, you know, like some of them wanted it to sound like really professional and like structured and, you know, sound a certain way. And other people were like, we should keep it raw and whatever. And I was like, I kind of want it to look like this. And then I got on one of my best friends who rides for Vans, Jay Kuzik.
Sick.
I was like, I called him because Jake's got like a really, really good sense of I just really appreciate his like structure about like life and his like vibe and everything like that. And so I called him and he was just like, dude, you got to do your own thing. Like, dude,
Rad.
do your own thing. Start like, I was like, do I keep the name? And he's like, no, just do your own thing like you did, dude.
How hard is it to pick the name?
It sucked.
It's the worst.
He helped
right?
me. He may have picked the name too.
I think on the last episode of the second season of my show, I was like, okay, I'm going to change the name because it's so whack. So we'll go to, like, let's call it the Snowboard Podcast, because that wasn't even taken. I can't believe no one took that. But
no,
then people were like,
FNRad
don't
is
fucking
perfect,
do it.
dude. Just it is though, because like, dude, Vans. Like, think about that name. When they first said it, they're like down in, you know, wherever in the garage in California, and they're like Vans.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like, yeah, it's their last name, but, like, they're probably not like,
no,
this
it was
is the
a
best
Van
name
Doren
ever.
company, and then somebody else was just saying, like,
But, like,
let's
Forum,
go down to Vans.
you know,
yeah.
Forum? Like,
Yeah.
Forum. Or Foursquare.
Yeah.
Imagine saying Foursquare 100 times somewhere, and someone's like, you want to make our outerwear company called Foursquare.
Yeah.
You know, I'm looking at Tantalus Labs right now. Like, you know, if you say that 5 times, you're like boring. But eventually, you say it 100 and start sounding pretty cool. And then you're baked, and you're like, this shit's tight.
Tantalus. Yeah. Shout out to Tantalus.
Tantalus, if you want to give me some weed, that'd be tight. CBD, I
please.
got some sore bones.
Have you tried the CBD stuff? What's your take on it?
Oh, dude, I got migraines for like a short stint, and I was like hitting the CBD hard, and they completely dissipated.
That's epic.
So for me, it worked for me.
Yeah.
So I believe in it.
I sleep like a baby, and then if I take CBD, I still sleep like a baby. So I find
So it doesn't do anything.
I find it's very expensive. That's what I find. I'm like, oh shit, this stuff is so expensive.
It's like $65.
Just be the same as I am. I want my drugs to make me feel like crazy.
An effect.
Yeah.
So like acid or mushrooms or whatever.
Those are my drugs.
Yeah.
DMT.
Yeah.
Like blast off into outer space.
Yeah.
And then come back and try and figure out what the fuck was that.
Have you done DMT before?
Yeah.
Dude.
Not today.
What's DMT like? I've never done it. Why did you like it?
It was explained to me by Kearns' guru that DMT, and I didn't do any DMT at Kearns for legal purposes, I have to say that, but it was explained to me that it will be like 1,000 acid trips and you will be back to normal within an hour.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what's worse than DMT? Salvia. So I was like the kid who never tried anything growing up, and then eventually all my friends, you know, like, you never threw the egg at the house, like, you never did this, you have to be kind of cool. So they made me smoke salvia first.
Oh, God.
And it blows your head off, and like, it doesn't make any. All my friends turned into, not trying to plug them because I ride for Billabong, but they all turned into Volcom symbols, and they were trying to like stab me, and the house that I was in turned into like a log house, and I was like running outside, and all the houses turned to bleachers, and everyone was cheering for me. And then if you've ever done salvia before, I've only done it once, and it was full peer pressure. I recommend nobody ever doing this drug, ever. I don't even know if it's a drug, because you can buy that shit over the counter anywhere.
You can.
So I'm not even plugging a drug. You could go down outside right now and buy salvia and smoke it, and in 5 minutes, it's the worst time ever. Anyways, it all stopped, and then I was just down the street, and it was pouring rain outside.
Oh, so you had moved from your guys weren't like making sure that you stayed still.
No, they let me run down the street, and I mean, they couldn't really stop me because I thought the houses were bleachers with people cheering for me. So yeah, I was just sprinting, and then of course it just stops. It goes from like 100 to 0 real fucking quick.
Yeah.
Sorry for swearing again.
No, I think we could swear. I think we've decided.
I think it's 18 plus in here if they're
18
selling
plus,
alcohol.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys can deal with it.
Those are my two homies from Winnipeg over there, Chris and Jesse, 204
Jesse.
Skate Shop.
Hell yeah.
Make sure you guys hook those guys up.
Nice.
Plugs. And shout outs to, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole here and shout out everybody, but thanks for having me on your podcast, FNRad.
Okay, shout that out. That's cool.
Yeah, dude. Thank you very much.
You can shout out whoever you want. We got unlimited time here.
Well, I think Strato gave me 2 beers.
Yeah.
The pizza I got by myself and a Caesar.
Yeah.
Or the Caesar was from you.
Yeah.
But either way, I got a nice little variety pack.
Yeah, you're set.
And once I'm done half the Caesar, my go-to is to pour half the beer into the Caesar, which is called a Michelada. I might be pronouncing that wrong.
Michelada?
Yeah, Michelada.
I don't know.
It's like my favorite drink.
Sick. So you're still drinking, because I've had to stop.
Oh, I'm drinking.
I drank from when I was your age to when I was my age, and I realized that I don't get much done when I'm... Well, that was what it was with the show. I couldn't edit the show and do my voiceovers, because if you hear me drunk, I am a nut.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always just liked drinking.
I like it still. Hey, I don't not.
I'm from
like
Winnipeg.
It.
I don't know. It's just like I don't think that anyone should do it if maybe they don't like it or if they're not getting shit done. Some people, but for me, I've never really been that. I've never abused substances.
Right.
I've never had that problem.
Right.
And I'm not. That's not like I have my. I don't want people to think that like, oh, you don't have problems. Like I have my own problems. I just don't have substance abuse problems.
We're gonna talk about your problems.
They're way worse than drinking. But like, I don't have any problems with substances. So like, I like to go out and have drinks.
Yeah.
And I think I'll do that forever.
I got a DUI was the thing. That's what actually happened. So a year after the DUI, when I was drinking and driving again, I was thinking, the strategy's no good. Like, have you looked at the fines? The fines are really a lot.
I mean, I like drinking. I never said I like drinking and driving.
No, don't do that. That's the thing. I don't condone that. I actually thought at one point I could tell a cop, like, listen, would you rather me, like, pound this beer at home and then be, like, more drunk because I drank it so fast, or just sip it in my car as I'm driving around? It's not a big deal.
I agree.
Yeah, no, that doesn't work. Police don't. No, they.
No, I agree with the cop. Like,
Yeah, no,
like,
they're
you
right.
ain't getting out of that one.
No, I also tried to tell a cop one time that I'm more careful with my kids in the car if I'm not wearing a seatbelt, because then I don't want to die. Like you're like driving like,
that's true.
I don't want to crash into anything. The cop was like, put your fucking seatbelt on, you idiot.
Well, I think that the reason why they want you to wear your seatbelt is because if you don't, then the insurance prices go up because so many people need extra claims. Because, if you're slamming the brakes at 40, people are breaking their wrists and stuff.
Right.
That's just going to cost more insurance. But back to the cop thing. Jesse over there, Jesse's dad was the chief of police of Winnipeg, I believe.
So
I felt
he's
invincible with Jesse.
Invincible.
I would walk around our hometown. We'd have beer and smoke joints, and the cops would roll by, and I'd be like, whatever. I'm with the chief. The chief of police's son is my best friend.
That's amazing.
I'm good.
That's sick. It's usually the chief of police kid that's like the most chronic too.
He was pretty chronic.
Yeah.
He blazed for
We're
sure.
airing his laundry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We smoked the weed before it was legal.
It's so weird that it's legal now, hey?
Yeah, it's
I was saying
like
this the other
though.
day that I was like, in the summer, I'd smoke some really good weed, and I was like sneaking under my windows because there was like kids outside, and I realized I'm a grown-ass man, and this is legal.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah, what are
Why
you
am I
doing?
paranoid in my own house?
Because it's been put in your head for so long.
Yeah,
that shit is like not legit. But
Totally.
my mom is super Christian, so growing up, I'd always be like, okay, you can't smoke weed. Like, that shit's like the devil's lettuce, whatever. Okay, anyways, this shit becomes legal. And what I say to my mom is, this shit is way better than alcohol. Like,
I agree.
Like, if you get blackout drunk, you beat up your best friend, you drive home drunk, you bang your best friend's girlfriend, and then you have a baby because you didn't wear a condom. Maybe. Worst case scenario. You smoke a joint, you're going to call Domino's, you're going to maybe order a new video game on Amazon, and call it a day.
Yeah, and if your buddy's girlfriend comes over, you're like,
no,
get out of here. I don't
You'd be like, oh, you'll have some of this pizza.
Yeah.
And you call it a night.
Yeah.
But, I mean, to each their own, you know?
Always. Yeah, live and let live. I was talking to Keir Dillon a couple days ago.
Keir Dillon? Dude, when I think of Keir Dillon, I think of headphones and, like, a white jacket.
Yeah, man.
What video part was that?
Headphones and white jacket.
I don't know.
I love your video part knowledge. That, to me, you are the king of that, 100%. Your video part knowledge is insane.
Dude, the guy that's standing over there that I keep plugging, he had the biggest snowboard video collection. So it was me, Jake, my friend Anthony, and Jesse. And when we lived together, like, we basically lived at our best friend Anthony's house, and Jesse would buy every single snowboard video when they would come out.
Rad.
So he had, like, all 15 of them or 12 of them every year.
For the year, yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be like Neoproto, King Snow, Mac Dog, you know, Kingpin. Like, it would be like he'd buy all of them.
Sick.
And then that was we started at the era of VHS. Actually, the first snowboard or skate video I ever watched at his house, I think, was Amp. And then we watched Daewon Son versus Rodney Mullen all the time in his basement, because he had that in VHS too. And then we translate into DVDs where you're like, yeah, these things don't burn out. You can watch them forever.
Totally. And easy
where
to
you
skip.
were at the time of the VHSs. So if you got a VHS that you liked, like, what would have been your first VHS you got as a snowboard?
I never bought. I'm not a media person. Like, I don't buy and own things. But definitely my friend invited me over to his house because there was a game changer video called Snowboarders in Exile. And I'd already seen some stuff before that, but
never seen that.
As soon as we saw Snowboarders in Exile, you've never seen Snowboarders in Exile? That is hilarious to me. It was the most important movie.
There you go.
For
that's what I got to do.
So many people. And it was Chris Roach is in there. Damian Sanders doing like backflips. There's double.
Was he wearing the
backflips
hard boots still?
Hard boots.
Okay.
It's insane.
Yeah,
it's
the hard boot guy. I like that he went big, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah, no, I understand. We gave him a pass because he was so much better than everybody else.
On the Kearns' podcast.
Yeah.
Kearns, because he says, I only can pull the style card for so long. I've listened to that podcast like 3 times because the Kearns one is like amazing.
Yeah, it was a fun one to do because that guy's the real deal.
It was just like it was everything you want in a podcast. You know what I mean? You had the feels going with the emotion at the end, and he's just like he's an open book. And to get people to be a full open book on your podcast is the level of comfort they have with you. So, I mean, clearly you made the guy feel comfortable. Maybe you gave him some DMT or some shit. I don't know, whatever he did. It worked.
He made himself feel comfortable. He's just a great person, and he, like I said, it changed the trajectory of the show to where I wanted the show to sound good and I wanted it to be real. Like, because there was a whole few seasons. See, that's the nice thing about your show. You hit the ground running. You already knew what to do.
Ooh, kinda. At the beginning, I would just interrupt the guest. So I only have 10 episodes.
I still do that. And I still do that all the time, and then I talk over them like that. It kills me when I have to listen to the recording after. I'm like, why did I do that? You were just saying?
You're like, exactly. Like, and so when you got your first pro model, and they're like, yeah, my first pro model, you're like, I loved that pro model. And the guy was like, oh, okay. Like, I guess you can tell my story.
It's so embarrassing. It's the worst because you're so excited for the guest. It's especially bad with somebody that is soft-spoken.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm uncomfortable with how quiet they are.
Exactly.
I'm like being loud for them. It's the worst.
Most of my guests that I started, like Jake was the first one I did.
Yeah.
And Jake...
That was a great
That
episode,
one was pretty good, but like
audio
levels weren't the best, and like I interrupted my best friend a ton, and I mean like I know Jake's I actually edited a bunch, and you can kind of tell. And now I don't edit them anymore. I like try not to unless like, you know, a few of them I've had to cut out things where they're like, we'll like trail off and they'll say some shit that they're like, whoa, like that was kind of gnarly. Like,
I don't want to put that
maybe I shouldn't tell the world. Maybe I shouldn't put this on the internet forever.
Your last episode with McMorris, fucking phenomenal, dude.
Yeah, that
really
the
well
one thing
done.
that was sweet with Mark is I've known Mark for a long time, so I have
And
a
he was
level
a
of
fan of yours. That's
Yeah.
the best. That's like the best case scenario is that this guy like looked up to you when he was a kid. That's
Well,
so sick.
I was wondering, I was like, okay, it's pretty sick to be interviewing Mark McMorris. Then I asked, like, yo, who are your favorite snowboarders? And he's like, oh, like growing up, you know, like Lucas Magoon, and I forget who else he said. And then Jeeves, and I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, and you, and I was like, whoa, did you just throw me into the mix because we're doing this right now?
Right,
But
right.
either way, I was like, fucking right. It's Mark
Take
McMorris
it.
just said that his favorite snowboarder is me. So you know.
There you go. How nice is that, right?
No, that was maybe a skewed vision. I thought it was funny though.
You guys got along well, like and the interview went well because that was his first real podcast
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah, he's dude. Mark's a cool kid, and it's crazy when you get to that big. When you get to like the Nigel Houston, Tony Hawk, you know, Mark McMorris, Sean White level of something.
man.
You know, it's hard to be normal and what everybody expects of you at all times. And
Right.
I just think that he presents himself in a way that's like, at least for being the face of snowboarding, he's pretty well spoken. He's pretty dope. He's got good style. He hangs out with the rest of the community. He's not
Yeah.
like closed off. Like I talked about this in the Mark one, like where someone like Sean White was like, this is snowboarding for me and what can I get out of it? Like Mark has a charity foundation. He rides with all
Yeah,
the other
dude.
homies. Like he knows who all like the dudes, like all the dope dudes are, and he like looks up to those guys, and it's like, and he draws inspiration from like Videograss and like new stuff, and like even him plugging Lucas Magoon, like he's not like some like robot snowboarder who's out there just like that doesn't have a clue what else is going on. So
Right.
I don't know. I think that's pretty tight.
That's sick. Yeah, I do this all the time. Is I bring guests on my show, and then I'm like, "What was it like to ride with Sean Palmer?" You know, like I just
Dude, that
let's
would be
talk about
that
some
Sean
other people.
Palmer would be amazing.
I'm
drunk. I'm gonna ride this pipe. And I'm gonna win.
Insane. Yeah, that's such
Yeah,
a good. That's
that
such
line
a good
is
shot,
amazing.
dude. That's all time. I talked to him and I asked him, like, "You've got a reputation for shit talking," and he goes, "Yeah, because I could win." You know, I knew I was gonna win, so I would tell people.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, well, a lot of times now people shit talk, they can't even win. He's like, why would they do that?
I feel like the snowboard community was a little bit more of shit talking now. I feel like now it's like chilled out a bit. Even like when I first started, it was like really separated in like there was like Videograss and that was like their thing, and then there was like the People crew and that was their thing, and there was like the Mac Dog crew and that was their, and then there was the Forum crew, and then there was the DC, and I didn't really feel like there was a lot of people that were like meshing with each other. Now there's definitely like the contest side and the video part side, but the video part side, it seems like everybody kind of gets along with each other. And the
I
know
think
what I mean?
everyone always got along, and
always
there
thought
was
there was,
these
like, tension.
weird fake rivalries, like the Terrier versus Todd Richards thing. I asked him about it, and he said that it's just like that was just like Transworld made it up kind of thing. But I mean, now
and then inevitably they're out of business. You know, when you make up shit and you start lying to people, you're friggin'
oh shit, my
snowboard.
podcast is going to go out of business. I just made that up. That Transworld. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's been fun for me to meet celebrities because I was never. That's the one thing about me is I was never at the level that you're at. Like, so you're the guy on the inside, and when you're interviewing people, you're interviewing your peers. I like that a lot. Like, it brings a lot to the table that you're making it happen as a pro snowboarder, and you know everybody's part off by heart and everything that they've ever done. But
Yeah.
how do you get your guests? I'm wondering about that. Like, is it mostly friends, people that are in Whistler, you'll reach out?
For guests, I mean, like most of all the dudes I've done so far are just like my homies.
Right.
Yeah, like they're all people I look up to, and like I'm really into. And I try to do like, you know, from Mark McMorris to like Harrison Gordon to like, you know, Jake or, you know, whoever,
Yeah.
or even Brian McClatchy, like who not a lot of people like. To me, it's just like I'm just interviewing people that have inspired me throughout my snowboard career or whatever you want. That's the worst. Can I delete the snowboard career
Yes.
thing? Yes. Okay, let's just delete that. Just through my snowboard time on this slippery little piece of wood that I enjoy riding. But like, yeah, I just do anyone who I'm into, and like, there's a lot of people I've crossed paths over the last, I don't know, 18 years of filming or whatever like that. Like Dwayne Weeb was like one of the first people to like take me under his wing, and Dwayne was like this like big pro from Calgary
Yeah,
who was like
yeah.
doing it with like Rome and all these people.
That was a
And-
great episode, too.
and like, yeah, and then moving forward, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. There's just 18 years later, it's like, I used to ride for DC for a bit. So like, I'm excited to like do, ECA, and like I had a lot of friends on DC for a while, and then now I'm on Vans, and I've been like friends with all these dudes on Vans for so long, and it just like makes you even closer, especially when like you go on like, I don't know if you saw that like Vans Edit Lovely Day. We went on like a RV trip with the whole crew, and it was like, holy shit, this is something epic to be a part of.
How legit is Vans? Like, how crazy
They're doing
is
it right,
that,
man.
Right? I just...
You got to spend money to make money, and they spend money on the right things, and it's like they just do it right. They have the people who work at the company are snowboarders and skateboarders and surfers. Yeah. And they hire the right people. I mean, everybody who I've worked with so far at the company is somebody that like I enjoy immediately. I'm like, oh, they don't, I don't know. It's just like what they do from the business side, and then like the look of like the product and stuff. And I don't know, they collaborate with the right people. I mean, even like Jake's boot and stuff like that, they like, if they give somebody a pro model, they really do give them a lot of freedom. But the athletes that they chose to work with are already creative and have like good taste. So when they come out with their product with their name on it, it just looks tight. You know what I mean? Just like same with their skate shoes. It's like whoever's been on their team. It's just like the rallies. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like they've been around forever and they look dope because they collaborate with the right people.
Yeah, they run everything through the filter of like authenticity.
Exactly.
Like, they're not doing like crazy modeling.
Exactly.
Stuff. They're using athletes to develop product.
They're a skateboard brand. Yeah. First and foremost, they're a skateboard brand, and that they're not trying to be anything but a skateboard brand.
Totally.
And there's all the other companies, like for example, like look at Nike, look at Adidas. Both of them have come into snowboarding. And where are they now? They're both out. And Adidas. They just pulled out. It's like they have Blauvelt still on the team, I heard. But they canned the whole other side of the program. It's like those companies are only in it to make, when the dollars don't make sense, they're like, okay, we got to pull out. Right. But like somewhere like Vans is a skateboard company, so they're never going to pull out. They're just, that's who they are. And as long as skateboarding and surfing and snowboarding are cool, that's where they're going to be. Yeah. And those things are fucking tight.
And probably while it's not cool too, I think that's the staying power of Vans is like they've had their ups and downs too, right? Yeah. But they just stay the course, and the more true they are to themselves, the more people like the brand.
Exactly. It's peaks and valleys, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's almost like they're doing it right. And I mean, like I've talked to a bunch of the other companies I ride for that are, they're big companies too, and they're drawing inspiration from Vans. They're like they're every company who's involved in the quote unquote action sports community is like, whoa, that company who's staying true to their what's it called, like their motto or whatever like that. It reflects dollars too, because people like shit that's authentic. Yeah. People are over like the cheesy kind of sold out bogus shit, and it's just like when you're an authentic company, people are down. I mean, there's probably a lot of little companies in here right now that are just starting out. And, if it's like once you kind of veer off course to make everybody happy, you make nobody happy, and then you're just like everybody else. Yeah, when the bottom line is how much money you're making, you lose something. You lose your focus on why you're doing it in the first place. It seems like I've never made any money, so I'm not the one to... Oh, it sounds good to be up here and be like, welcome Jody Wachniak on the podcast. He's a pro snowboarder. He actually paints all summer with ex-pro snowboarder Rube Goldberg. Nice. Yeah, how does your generation feel about the guys the guys that were mediocre that were making so much money? Dude, when me, Jake, and Jeeves moved to Whistler, we'd go to the bar and it'd be like, every pro that, Travis Kennedy, Devin Walsh, Laurie Ika, and then that whole crew, and then there's like DCP, and then like Roman Marchi, like everybody is there, and they all have new sleds, they all have new trucks, they're all going out every night, they're all eating steak and lobster, and you're just like, if I film a good part, get a cover of Trans World, get a few checkouts, like the end result is big money. Now these kids they move to Whistler, they see all the new pros, like me and all my homies, and they're like, whoa, like, Jody's got a shitty truck and a sore back from painting ceilings. Like, so if I work for 15, 20 years out of video parts, like the end result is painting with Rube Goldberg. Or, you know, there are cases where, like, you know, Jake, the top of the top, you know, he lives in Vancouver and he films skating all summer and stuff like that. Like, you can still, like, crush it and make some loot, but it's just not as big.
It's probably the same number of people, but the industry is so big now that there's a whole bunch of other people on companies
like
making no
take
money.
this for example. You know Dion Dilsell?
Yes.
So Dion, the other night we were having a few drinks, and maybe I shouldn't repeat this, but I'm going to do it anyway because you're not supposed to. Well, I'm doing it. So
you're doing
thanks, Dion. He was like, my last year snowboarding, I signed a 3-year contract with Sapient for $8,000 a month.
$8,000 a month.
And he said he didn't even snowboard for the last like year. He was just like chilling, and I was like $8,000. Like I don't like whole. And the amount of stories you hear about like, oh, this dude was riding for this goggle company for like $4,000 a month, and he was riding for Drop gloves for like $4,000. You're like,
yeah.
$4,000 a month to ride for a glove company? Like, I'm happy to ride for Howl, but, you know, like, maybe, like, a free, you know, like, they're not even paying rent for 1 month.
Right.
And I don't care because Daryl's the shit, and I couldn't be happier than, like, supporting a company that I like.
Right.
You know?
Well, you could be happier if it was $8,000 a month.
It's true.
A little
maybe
bit.
I just need to work. Maybe I just need to
would.
work harder there. You know what I mean? Like I need to like, you know. And I cornered myself a long time ago being like the most Canadian snowboarder ever and just living in Whistler, and thinking that would translate into being like a pro snowboarder who makes money. Now it's like, unless you're known in the States and you go and hang out with people in the States, if you're trying to be a pro skater, pro snowboarder, and you don't go to the States, you're only as big as you are in Canada. And Canada is like half the size of California.
Right.
So it's like, or whatever, you know, not actually, but like, or maybe it is. I don't know. Does anybody know? How big's California? It's pretty fucking big.
Somebody's got to Google this.
If I had my phone on me, I'd literally ask Siri. I bet you California's bigger than Canada.
Oh,
with
for
population
sure it is,
size.
right? I should know this.
Somebody who's listening, it is. Okay, we're getting a lot of nods.
Yeah. It's big. California's
People
big.
are bummed on me for saying that.
Yeah, so you want to go. So you're saying you hate Canada and you want to go to the United States.
No, dude. I'm I'm from Ukraine, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. My roots are.
Roots. Nice.
But no, dude, Canada. That's the reason why I stayed in it the whole time. I couldn't leave, dude. Canada's my shit. I love this place.
You get to go on a few trips a year, too, to some great spots.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
What have been some career highlights? And do you still have that, like, stoke for when you're going on a trip with the Vans guys and you're like, I can't believe what's going on here?
Well, there's two types of trips. There's the trips where you're going on a trip with, like, Vans, and it's, like, all these homies who you draw so much inspiration from, and it's, like, your favorite dudes. Or there's other trips where it's just like a free trip from like, you know, Red Bull or Monster, and they're paying for everything, and, you know, that's fun because it's just free. But it's a lot less fun because when it's also free and you're going with like a group of people that are like your favorite humans, it's just like the best ever. So like whether it's traveling with like the Man Boys for me to go to Alaska or Japan with those dudes, or going to, you know, Switzerland with Pettit and Razman for like a Red Bull thing, or like sick. You know, it's or like or the latest few trips with Vans were super special to me because I mean Jake was my best friend, or still is one of my best friends growing up, and to see what he's accomplished with not only Vans but K2 and I mean he has a pro model with every one of his companies. And it's crazy like to think that like I've known that kid since he was born, and like to see what he's accomplished and like how humble he is about it and how tasteful he is about it. It's just, I don't know. It was pretty cool, and I know that a big part of the reason why I'm originally got on Vans is because Jake was talking to Daryl a little bit about me, and then Daryl was down, and then Jake talked to Alex Forbes, who used to work in Vans Canada, and now he's overseas, and that translated into me getting on Vans. And then Jake had this boot coming out, and Tanner, who's the filmer for Vans, or one of the filmers, really likes me because of Jake. And then he was like, yo, we got to get Jody on this trip, on this Vans trip, like in this RV. And I mean, to go on a trip with not only my best friend, but like my favorite, like the Vans team right now are my favorite snowboarders. Like, right. I'm not even saying that because I'm on Vans. Like, take Vans out of the equation. Those dudes are the best. Like Danimals, Arthur Longo, Pat Moore,
Yeah.
Taxwood, like you got the
Sick.
list, the Parker, everybody that they've picked. You know what I mean? They picked the right dudes.
How did you get on K2? K2, you've been with them for a few years, right?
Yeah, I've been on K2 for 5 years now,
5.
and that actually wasn't from Jake. I actually was supposed to ride
You
for
got
Rye.
him on there.
No, I didn't. He's
heard
been
you.
on K2 for like 8 or 9 years.
Has he?
originally.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was supposed to ride for Ride.
Right.
Originally, and it didn't work out. And then it just translated somehow into me getting on to K2. I was actually gonna I don't know, you probably didn't watch this video, maybe you have, but Dope's last video called The Bolts, which is like one of my best parts.
Sick.
It's called The Mixtape. I filmed that video part, and I got dropped by everybody that year, and I was gonna quit snowboarding. So I filmed The Mixtape. No money. I just did it because we're going to Brockle's house in Caledon, Ontario, with me, E-Man, Demo, Lane. I'm forgetting another person, but Scott Brown and Ashley Barker, who's a photographer, and Rob LeMay. And we went there, and we were just like shooting for 1 month, living in Brockle's mom's basement for a month, like 3 weeks. And we filmed the whole video on like no money. We were all so broke. And then I was like going to come back, start work, and then finish the year off boarding, a little bit of slush boarding, and then move on with life. Because I was like, okay, I was still going to snowboard, but I just wasn't going to pursue it anymore. And then I just happened to film one of my best video parts.
Sick.
Just clearly, or not clearly, but like sheerly out of having like the best time ever with my friends. And then I got on K2, and then that translated into getting me onto Howl, and then it kind of rippled from there. But it just goes to show, like, dude, go boarding with your homies.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
You go
for sure.
board with your homies, and it's like, you know, I don't know how Sean White got so freaking good. Like, who rides a half pipe alone? Imagine going to he's not only does snowboard half pipe, but he does like skate half pipe, vert shit, and he rides that alone. Like, that, do you snowboard alone? Like, that shit is weird. Dude.
Sometimes if everybody's working, but
Yeah.
not on, like, it wouldn't be my first choice.
It also wouldn't be your day to like push yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh,
if you're
I
riding
never
with like
push myself
5 of your
when I'm
buds,
alone,
and they're
no.
like, Eric,
Yeah.
and you're like, you know what? I'm going for the Wildcat.
Yeah, no,
You know
it's
what I
not
mean?
happening.
We're
Yeah,
on Cash
yeah.
and Hit. We're up Seymour. Like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling it. It's pow day. You ride alone. Like, I don't even know how someone would push themselves.
You don't. You just, you're just kind of cruising. Yeah. I rode alone a lot when I first had kids. So, like, you would have to steal your time, right? Like, so you'd be like, okay, I've got a window of 2 hours that I can go snowboarding, and every single one of my friends can't be ready in the time that I need them to be ready. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, I'll pick you up
That's
in
me.
5 minutes, and then I'm at your house, and you're like, I'm just going to have a shower. And I'm like, dude, I've got like 2 hours.
I'm pretty good at being in time for important things, but like, I should get better at it.
Yeah. For your
like-
friends.
Yeah, and you know what I mean? Like, being on time if you're one of those people who's on time, that's dope. That's a good quality.
It's, you know what? Being on time just means being early. That's all, like 5 minutes. If
Yeah.
you shoot for 5 minutes earlier.
I was on time for this today.
Yeah, you were. You were way early. Thank you.
I wasn't exactly sure, and I felt like we weren't like 100% like this is the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, if I don't show up early, like maybe you're gonna give my seat away to like, you know, maybe Dion's gonna be walking, or maybe TJ was here, you know, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. No, I wouldn't give your spot away, dude.
No, it's fine.
I've been looking forward to this all week.
Me too.
I just like, because who else snowboards and does a podcast?
Dude, we're both like, we're nerds. We have
We're
a snowboard
nerds.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun doing it, though, hey? Like,
yeah.
And it's not that hard. Anyone who wants to do it, they can just get some microphones.
My
and
thing
do
is
it.
that it's not hard, but when you put yourself out doing anything, whether it's like you're an artist or like you film all year to make a video part, once that video part or once that art is out for everybody to see, it's like, okay, like I'm ready for judgment, kind of.
Yes.
And I get anxiety every time I drop an episode because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll re-listen to it and I'll be like, why did I say that? That was dumb. Like, I don't like how I did the intro with that. Why would I have responded like that? Or like a lot of times I'll plug the wrong person, like blah, 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 blah. And you're like talking about like old gibber guys. And I should have said something about JP or Jeremy. and I used, like the wrong name, like, oh yeah, like, Big Mountain Jeremy Jones, and you're like, what?
Sure,
no,
sure.
I meant to say JP. Like, all these people are gonna think I'm an idiot. So
There is that feeling of like all these people are going to think I'm an idiot.
For sure.
I definitely.
There's some people who think we're idiots.
I can remember people coming up
Guaranteed.
to me and saying that the first few times that I heard someone say, "Hey, you're that podcast guy," I was like, "Oh my god!" Or someone worse. The worst thing is they're like, "I heard you have a podcast," and I'm like, "Oh, you haven't listened to it yet? Don't, please don't." Like, oh my god, wait until I'm good at it. Wait until I'm better. Give me a couple of years.
Give me a couple of years.
Because you don't want to listen to the first 3 seasons of the show, really. Until I talked to Sean Kearns, I didn't know how to be in the room.
Oh,
with the
dude,
person.
it's yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. It's a snowboard podcast. There's not like, I'm almost surprised that there's that many people that listen to a snowboard podcast, which actually stokes me out because that means that there's a lot more people out there that like snowboarding, which is good. Because I mean, like, I'm looking around right now, and there's all my friends at Vans, but they like work for Vans, and they're probably making money right now. One of them's taking me for dinner, I think. I just kind of met him once or twice. He said we're gonna go for dinner.
Nice.
I'm getting the thumbs up. And then my 3 friends over there. So, like, I don't know. Hopefully a lot of people are buying snowboards still.
Yeah. Well, Dano, when I was just talking to him, was talking about how, the snowboard industry, and it's in all this trouble. And I was like, I don't
know if it
see
is.
that. What are you talking about? My board's better this year than it was last year. My boots are always getting better.
One thing I will
Everything's
say,
epic.
though. Snowboarding 10 years ago went through the kookiest phase that ever existed ever. It was like
What was it?
Skittle colors, wide stance, like
I love that shit.
People looked I wasn't, dude. I rode for Tech 9 and like 18 bandanas
love
on my
it,
head.
yes.
Like, I don't know what was going on. Like, that phase was messed up.
I like those phases.
The phase before that was epic, and now the phase now is like, I go on a rail trip. All of my friends, they're wearing like gray hoodies and blue pants, and like they're just doing normal tricks. Like, there was a time there where I was a big part of that movement. That like,
Sure.
It was confusing. It was like how many accessories. I literally hit a spot one time with a guy who put feathers in his hair.
That's so sick.
He put a bunch of feathers in his hair,
Yeah.
and then he like ripped like the amount of accessories he had on him. I was like, dude, if you come off this rail early, a branch is gonna grab one of those feathers or those extra strings and you're gonna die. Like,
oh my god.
you know, his name is D-Fed.
What about Laurent? You guys saw
LNP?
pretty early on. He was those are my guys. He was my guy. Like
He's everyone's guy.
The style, like that's the thing is you can get away with all sorts of shit if your style.
Well, no,
is good.
he had some crazy. He had made the red pants were kind of crazy, but he's almost like a better pick than some of the other people I'm thinking of. Like,
yeah.
Like, dude. Yeah. Anyway, we don't have to go to the rabbit hole.
There's a
but, like,
history of it.
yeah.
Like Sean Palmer shaved his head into a friggin'
That's
clown
dope.
hair.
That's
you
kind of
know?
sick, though.
Yeah, Dano had a mohawk at some point.
Mohawk's sick, dude.
Yeah.
Heikki Sorsa at the Olympics, dude.
That was sick.
That was super sick.
Yeah, that was all time.
Yeah. See, the phase before that, like, I really liked it. Just, like, the really crazy, like, colors and, I don't know. Just, like, when I watch those parts sometimes, yeah, they make me happy, but I'm also like, wow, like, what was I thinking? Like, I was wearing purple pants with a diamond hoodie with a bandana with a yellow hat that matched my yellow boots that matched my yellow grenade gloves, and I was just like, I lived with Griff and Jeeves, and we used to just like get super baked, and then we would be like, and Jeeves would always be like, you gotta have a good kit when you're going out, so we would make sure like all of our shit was like matching and stuff, and it was just, I don't know, like now that I watch it, I'm like, what were we thinking? Like,
I gotta have Jeeves on the show.
oh, dude, yes,
Love
you
that
do.
guy. Yeah.
And he's been doing really well. He's got a beautiful girl. He's
Ottawa
finishing.
somewhere,
He's doing some masonry stuff in
Yeah.
Ottawa, and yeah, he's boarding. I just saw he did that gap lip slide the other
that was
day.
so sick too, right?
And,
That's what makes me the most happy. Is that over the years, a lot of my friends have done like what I would do when I had kids. Like, you can't snowboard anymore.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people don't come back, and you're like,
Dude,
you gotta come back.
Jeeves is like a skateboarder and snowboarder forever. I mean,
Good.
first and foremost, he's a skater, but like those things are who he identifies with to a core. So he's always gonna. That's just who he.
It
Like
gets its
if
hooks in
he's Like, he's never going to travel somewhere and not have his skateboard. He's never going to be somewhere where if he can snowboard, he's not going to try and figure out how to snowboard.
Right.
You know, it's like never going to hit him where he's like, yeah, I just don't skate anymore and I don't snowboard. Like, unless he can't walk, he's going to be doing that shit.
Yeah, it sucks when people just don't go. But it's the best when you convince them to go and you see how their style come out, you know?
Well, you've been doing it for a long time. I mean, so have I. You have that 98% of the people we both grew up with don't snowboard anymore.
98
at all.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? 98. That's
a lot.
That's a perfect number. But I mean, like, that really is, like, out of my friends group, I like probably grew up riding with. Well, 98's a bad number. I'd say like 90 because, you know, out of a group of like 20, I think I have literally 18 of those friends don't snowboard anymore, and the last 2 are Jesse and Jake.
That's it. And they're here.
Sick. Well, Jake's at his house in Van, but Jesse's here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jake said he might do the show.
Yeah, he heard his...
Well, you and I talked about this off mic about, like, guests, and I was telling you, I don't think that there's any need for a gap between guests, you know, like wait a season or whatever. But mostly that's because your guests are all so good. I want all your guests.
Dude, you can have every one of my guests. Dude, get them all on. Because you were, like, when you're doing... you can't have too much Devin Walsh.
Exactly.
You can't have too many stories from, like, the people who invented snowboarding. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to have a podcast where you're like, I don't really want to hear another podcast from Andrew Reynolds. You know what I mean? Like, that'll get boring. Exactly. You're like, every time he's going to say some shit that you're like, I didn't know that about you, and you keep getting cooler.
Yeah. Mikkel was, I love that one.
That's another, dude. And he's been in snowboard, like,
since he was a little kid.
Like a baby.
Yeah, he was like I remember him winning when he was like a child. He was like kind of that opposite of Sean, right? Like Sean White was... Oh, yeah. Was Sean. Sean's always been Sean.
Yeah. It's like Sean and Mikey, and then after Sean and Mikey, it was like Mickle. And the drinks just keep on flowing. Thanks for the tins. I'm going to black out on the podcast. But, I mean, no, we're good. It's a big night here.
Yeah, man. Cheers. This is a cheers to an empty cup.
Yeah. I think that's bad luck for one of us.
There was enough in there to pull it off. Oh, thank you.
Oh, once you have one, buddy, there's definitely some vodka in there.
Oh, there's a lot of vodka in there.
Well,
one, and I'm running around the show like, no, I'm not that bad. Pretty bad. Like, for me, it's not. It doesn't put me into the most alignment with getting shit done. That's what I was saying before. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
probably get in my car. And I
don't drink if I have shit to get done, and I don't. Dude, I can't. I used to try and get shit done when I was baked.
Sure.
And I would get things done, but I didn't realize how slow I was at those tasks. I'd be like, have you ever? Well, we all have. Every time I clean my house and I'm baked, one area of my house gets really clean. Really clean. And then it just slowly fades off into everything else, just like that kind of got clean, but not really. You know what I mean? Where at least if I didn't get baked, everything's like, cleaned at the same level.
Sure. You know? Yeah, no, definitely. Have you ever snowboarded hammered? Do you ever snowboard drunk?
I have. It's the worst ever.
It is the worst. It's like going to a movie drunk and you're like...
the worst. Yeah. It seems like a good thing to go inside the ronde. Like, I like going in and having one or two. Yeah. Maybe 3. But 3's almost too much. It really is. Like, 3 beers on the mountain is like, that you're getting along the drunk side, considering that you're actually doing physical activity, therefore you're getting dehydrated. But, you go up there and have 6 beers or something like that. I've done that before. It sucks.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, I do love it, but it sucks.
You're not snowboarding.
No,
you get loose and you start flat landings and you don't care and you wipe out pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're drunk.
But weed's the opposite. See,
Yeah, that's true.
First 8 video parts I filmed, I was only baked. I've never even had a clip that was not baked. Wow. And then out of nowhere one time I was like, I just quit smoking weed. And then I was like going into the year and I was like, whoa, this is really weird to be filming like not baked, which is like, it was only because everyone else I was around was always just smoking weed.
Sure.
So it was just like,
what was the incident for the quitting out of the blue?
Honestly, I was getting baked, didn't feel like I was getting anything done. And then I never used to get anxiety. And then I would know I was just like, oh my God, I'm really anxious these days. And then I was like, I don't like this. And it was just like logical, you know what I mean? Where I think there's a lot of people who are like, were very rational with like, if I drink alcohol, I don't get shit done. I don't want to do it. And that means you know yourself. So for me, I know that if I smoke weed, I was getting anxiety. Therefore, I wasn't enjoying it. Therefore, I knew I needed to remove it.
Yeah.
And then a year later, I like slowly added it in, and I realized it just like wasn't my thing anymore. And now I get like baked occasionally, but it's like definitely
Same.
not like I came down to Vancouver yesterday, and it's like I don't have weed with me anymore. Like I'm not like. But if someone like after the show is like we're sitting outside and they get a joint going, like I might take a hit of the joint. But
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
it's just like not my jam really anymore.
Yeah. I didn't make a conscious choice. I just could not stand to hear my voice on mic drunk. It's just like embarrassing. I was like, wow, that's what I sound like when I'm drunk. I think I got same anxiety the other direction. Like, whoa, wait, all the time that I'm drunk, I sound like that because I'm drunk all the time. This is fucked up.
Yeah.
And so what happened was it was really easy. I wouldn't drink on Wednesdays because that's when I recorded my show. And so then just having that one day a week that I wasn't drinking, then I started doing it on Tuesday and Wednesday. Like, okay, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then before I knew it, some sort of, January 1st came around. I'm like, I'm going to see if I can do this for a month. And then I did it for a year.
Oh, wow.
And now it's like, well, but I mean, like, I'll have a beer every once in a while.
Yeah.
But that's where I wanted to be, is where I could have a beer and then I'm not, like, running
Wait, so
off
you haven't had a sip of alcohol in a year?
This year I had a tall boy with...
well, then don't drink that thing. Pass that over here. I'll drink it.
Oh, now you've got 6.
Well, I'll crush these. This is getting crazy.
I had
so I have 3
I had a
Caesars,
tall boy
2 beers.
with
3
Sean
beers.
Farmer, and Sean Farmer rapped on mic. So the Sean Farmer episode that you're going to hear in another couple of weeks, you're going to hear brand new Sean Farmer rap. Now, you don't know who that is because...
Of course I know who Sean
Okay,
Farmer is.
well-
I've gone to Super Park twice with Sean, with him there.
Sick.
Every time, hammered and freestyles the entire night away.
Yeah, he's the best. He's the best.
It's truly incredible.
He jumped the Mount Baker Road Gap first. There was one other guy that was with him that they...
Pat McCarthy.
No, it was way before. They were children. This is 89, 88 maybe. He jumped the Mount Baker Road Gap, and the first time he jumped it, he took his shirt off, and he did a method, and didn't stomp it, but it landed and rode away.
Wow.
That's Sean Farmer. He's like a fucking psycho.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen enough of his video parts. I need to watch more.
He's in Snowboarders in Exile, and he's in Critical Condition, which is the next one from Fall Line Films, which I found out while I was in California, that those two guys, Jerry and Artie, that did Fall Line Films, they were the staff filmers at Squaw Valley. So Squaw Valley had it for skiing. When you were going, there would be guys there that would just like film you, and at the end of the day, they'd sell you an edit of you skiing.
What?
Yeah, that's what their business model was.
Back then?
Yeah, like
Wow.
like 85 or something. So they
That's
got
like way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, so then they started filming snowboarding at Squaw, and they're like, "Wow, I think we can make an all snowboarding movie," and they did. And that was like one of the first snowboarding production companies.
Wow.
Came from that kind of like kids.
Did you say that was in the 80s?
Yeah, that probably came out in '89.
Oh, wow.
Actually,
89.
88, maybe '89. Yeah, you weren't even born yet.
No, I wasn't. I was 88.
You were born in '88.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pro snowboarding dream, you moved out to Whistler when you were like just right out of high school, right?
Yeah, I moved out to Whistler when I actually graduated early because I was in jazz band for 5 years.
What was your instrument?
Trumpet.
Oh, yes.
It was
You
kind
could
of...
still do it? You could still trumpet the fuck out of a trumpet?
I can't trumpet the fuck out of a trumpet anymore, and I've always wished I played the piano, but I didn't. I played the trumpet, and let me tell you, playing the trumpet alone in the basement with your parents above you, a bad instrument to pick. My dad's like, shut the fuck up.
I love it.
Like, fuck you and your trumpet. Like, I just worked all day, and you have to oh my...
I wish
yeah.
we had a trumpet so we could close out the show with you just jazz trumpeting.
Believe it or not, dude, I haven't played the trumpet in probably 14 years.
Right.
And the amount of muscles you need in your cheeks to play that instrument well, none of those exist anymore. And I actually quit playing the trumpet because you'd have to do it before and after school. And I started like really, I was into skating before I was into snowboarding, and it was interfering. I was just like, oh, I just want to skate.
Yeah.
So in grade 11, I quit playing trumpet, and I was lead. If you know anything about jazz band, you're the
Which I
lead
don't.
trumpet player, and you quit. That's a big deal.
Yeah, they had to find a replacement.
That's like,
quick.
you know, losing your guitar player. You know, if a bass guy leaves, you're like, the bass guy's gone. But
Yeah.
if your lead guitar leaves, you're like, holy shit, like, what's our band going to do?
Yeah.
And so my instructor was pretty pissed. And peace out. 204 shops taken off. See you guys. I'll call
See
you.
boys.
Yeah. Anyways, I quit jazz band. I moved to Whistler when I was 16. I got to go.
Holy shit,
Yeah,
16.
16. I got to leave early because I had a bunch of credits.
Yeah.
And yeah, I moved out to Whistler when I was 16. Didn't know a single person. Moved into a basement suite in Nordic, and
Oh my God.
my other buddy
That's
moved.
pretty brave, dude.
It was super brave. I couldn't even. Now looking back, I don't even know how that happened or why I did any of that. I just wound up in Whistler, and there I was because I wanted to snowboard, and I was going to do it for a few months. And then before I knew it, it was like my oldest buddy Chris came out, and then he was living with me, and then Jeeves was going to come out, and then the year after Jake was like, oh, I'm going to come out, and I was like, and then I had all my buddies there. Within a year, it was like all of my homies. And then I met a bunch of homies, like, because once you're there and you're 16, when you're 16 and you're in a small town, you only hang out with people that are like 16.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Whistler, and the age just disappeared. I was 16, but I was hanging out with people who were like 30. I was hanging out with 25-year-old girls. You know, we were going to nightclubs with fake ID, and we were just friends with a huge group of people from 15 to 25. And we had this huge posse of like, you know, we were friends with, I like ran into a bunch of my friends here from Montreal and like from all over Canada that moved there, and you just have this huge mob of like young kids that live in Whistler, and you guys are all dirtbags, and none of you guys have any money, and you find out who are the rich kids, and you're like, okay, you guys, you're the rich kids, so like we go over to your house and drink your booze because your parents are rich, and you feel less guilty about like, you know, jacking their shit or whatever, like, and then just dirtbagging it, dude, and then
So
boom,
you didn't have to go to school while you were there. You weren't
No.
like in high school. You had
No,
graduated.
I
you were ready to
graduated.
roll.
Yeah.
That's insane. My
Yeah.
kid's 16 right now.
Yeah.
If he told me he was moving to Winnipeg, I would be like,
Well,
no, you're not.
Well, I hope that you would say that. No, I'm kidding. Winnipeg's dope. If you know what, if he was a musician and he was moving to Winnipeg, I'd say that's a good idea.
Right.
Because it's a really like an arts kind of cultural place. But I mean, as far as
And
moving
who
to
am I
Winnipeg,
kidding? If my kid said he was doing something, I'd just be like, that sounds good. I'm sure you figured it out.
Right on.
You've done you watched a YouTube video on it. I'm positive you're
right?
good.
You're drawing.
Why are you that young that you watch YouTube videos just like when you wake up in the morning, you got a YouTube video going?
No, I don't do
hell
that. But I
is
mean,
that?
I do definitely. Sometimes if I'm bored, I'll like chain watch videos. But my search is basically snowboard videos, a little bit of skateboard videos, and then cryptocurrency in my like deep dive hole.
Sick.
I'll be like, what is this stuff? And so I've been dabbling into like
How much
that.
do you have? Like you got millions of dollars, you got thousands of dollars in crypto?
Yeah, like
I got 150. It used to be 1,000, and now it's 146 US.
Yeah, mine's a little bit up there, but
Good.
not crazy. I didn't buy early, but I bought like early. So
Good for you.
Yeah, so it's 2020 now, so I probably bought I don't know. A while ago though.
Like 2015?
No, yeah, somewhere around there.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
And
that's
I bought
all right.
I bought low, let's just say.
Yeah.
Like definitely
Sick.
So I'm in the clear unless it like really tanks, which it totally could because I
It
mean
still
nobody
could.
it's just funny internet money.
It doesn't make sense that it will, though. I think that like the future is obviously crypto is just a matter of like taking out the banks that have all the money, right?
Well, yeah, if you look at places like Venezuela and all like the corrupt third world countries,
Yeah.
and then you take that, you know, they have $1 million bills that are printed in these like really corrupt places.
Yeah.
Therefore, the government's just printing funny money, if you like. Their fiat's just completely worthless.
Totally.
And so the companies that are in those places, like Airbnb and et cetera, like that whole community, are now only accepting cryptocurrency
Rad.
because their own money is more volatile than cryptocurrency is.
Yeah.
And they believe that Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency they choose to believe in is going to be, less volatile than their actual government's dollar just due to corruption and stuff like that.
And they're probably right, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And really, the only reason why a Canadian dollar bill or an American dollar bill has any worth is because you and I say it does. Because it's not backed by gold anymore.
Right.
I mean, as of 1971, President Nixon took it off the gold standard, so it's just like a worthless piece of paper. So if you and I say cryptocurrency's money, then it's money.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that think it's money. And then it's less transfer fees. So if you're transferring large sum of money to people, it's faster, it's quicker. It's just digital, it's futuristic, new age internet money that, and then we could go into the whole blockchain and the fact that like it's just more secure and until it's hacked, it's just going to keep going.
Yeah, I think blockchain's obviously the future. It's kind of scary with I was talking with Nicholas Mueller about the 5G thing, and it got really negative on that. Like he's saying it's a weapon, and I'm like, but the blockchain technology, it's going to change everything. I think it's going to change. At some point, some company is going to come up with a positive system where you're on the phone and they collect all the data that they are already collecting, but then they give it to you in a way that you can use it. And your buddy who's on that phone plan you're going to be like, dude, you don't look as down and out as you did a year ago. What happened? And he's going to say, my phone. It showed me I was always on my ex-girlfriend's Instagram, tripping out. And it told me that's what losers do. It was calling me a loser. It was showing me, look, if you want to be a winner like me, just get one of these phones. Yeah, it's really easy.
I mean, I think that blockchain might go in a different direction than that. But I mean, for sure. That could definitely relate to your ex-girlfriend and creeping her on Instagram if you wanted to. But if you go down, I think that the long and the short of it is that there's a lot of corruption in big banks. And if you look into it, it's kind of crazy. And I think people want something that just has a bit more security with their money tied to it. And a lot of big time investors now. I'm only going down this rabbit hole because this is what I nerd out on in my spare time. So we're kind of in my little niche that I kind of like. But
I like it.
I just think that there's a lot of big time financial advisors who 5 years ago would say, don't ever buy cryptocurrency. And they're all switching over to well, you know what, maybe put 5% of your savings or whatever you're willing to do into the, at least to have some of it. Right. You know what I mean?
I just revealed, I have 100% of my savings in crypto. It's $146.
I like it, dude. That's kind of, yeah. I mean, I have a few friends who made big, they bought it when it first came out when it was $2 and stuff.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and a funny thing is, because this is a snowboard podcast, so we can plug them. So Annie Boulanger and Mary France Roy, both two amazing female snowboarders.
Yes.
Who are amazing. They both bought Bitcoin really early, and they bought it. I think they bought it at $700 a piece, and both of those girls lost their codes or their stuff that you need to access it. Mary France Roy found hers and got hers, and I'm pretty sure she exited with $20,000 or $30,000.
Brad.
Which at the time was crazy. And then Annie wanted, because if you know Annie's an insane investor. Annie couldn't find her codes, so she contacted a hacker in Vancouver.
Whoa.
And she gave all the information she had on her passwords and everything like that, and was like, I forget my password, figure it out. And he cracked the code, and then he was like, well, you can tell that I'm pretty dope because I cracked the code and I could have just stole your $50,000. But he ended up giving it to her. And so they both cashed out pretty big during that all-time high there.
When it was all-time high. That's exactly when I bought all my stuff. I was like, yeah.
A lot of people
did. It's going to go to a bazillion.
I know, right? Everybody thought it was going to that year. I mean, I got Rube Goldberg, another snowboarder, and Rusty to buy this coin called Tron coin.
Tron,
TRX. And they both put a few $1,000s into it. Yeah. And it's pretty much gone down 100%. And so whenever I go to work, both of them are just Tron coin. They just yell Tron coin and make so much fun of me because I'm I didn't tell them to invest in
Yeah.
it, but I kind of was like, yo, cryptocurrency's sick.
I got my guy at work that's the same thing. He's like, Litecoin, get Litecoin. So I
Charlie Lee.
I bought a bunch of Litecoin, and then there was some scandal, and then I was like, oh, why?
Well, there's that big one in Canada with what was the currency exchange name? I forget. Anyways, it got freaking hacked, and all these people, like this guy apparently died in Europe of an autoimmune disease, and they never found his body, and he ended up like. Anyways, it's a huge scam, and the guy just stole everyone's crypto. It's a sketchy thing. If you're listening to this, maybe don't get into it. It's like it's hard. You have to remember all these codes, and I mean, once you start doing it, you feel like you're like in a James Bond movie, and you're gonna meet like Boris from GoldenEye or some shit. Like, yeah, good call. Cop that.
Awesome. Okay, snowboarding. Every time I do one of these where I veer off like crazy.
Talking about cryptocurrency?
Yeah, people, the next time I do just a pure snowboarding one, they're like, now that was a good podcast.
To me, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm going to talk about whatever I want. We're at the No Show right now. I drink Caesars, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're going to translate back into snowboarding because that's just what we're going to do. Like, boom, who's your favorite snowboarder right now? Boom, back into snowboarding.
You know what?
Who's somebody who, I mean, you have Instagram. It's like part of your thing now. Like, who's somebody that when they pop up, you're like, damn, this homie's sick.
Oh, it's always Haldor and those guys.
Oh, yeah, sick.
My God. Like, the things that those guys do seemed impossible.
He's a freak for sure. I've known that kid forever. He actually came his first year ever to Canada. He stayed under my table with his brother, and my friend Kareem, who used to ride for Forum El Rafi, was like, yo, man, this is Heikki and Haldor, man. These kids are the next dude. They're from Iceland. They're so good, man. And he was like, and he showed me their demo tape.
Oh, that's epic.
And like Haldor was like literally doing shit that nobody had ever, like he was hitting this really famous wooden kink in Iceland, I believe it is, and he was doing every trick ever on it. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the next. He's doing like back 180 switch fitties and like, you know, 5-0 back 180 and whatever. He just had like really ahead of its time tricks. And then sure enough, like 3 years later, he was in standard, and it was just like the Haldor and Heikki show.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Heikki kind of seemed to like, I don't want to say fall off, but he just didn't like whatever happened there. But like Haldor, dude, like that he's in his own world. He's so good that it's just like a big video game to him.
Well, their crew looks a lot like the Man Boys in the fact that they're like always together and goofing around and having a good time as a group. There's not a lot of
those guys are pretty. That European crew is insane. They party so hard. It's crazy.
It's nuts. Right?
Yeah, they're a riot to be with for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about the Man Boys. Years ago when the first Man Boys series came out, I don't want to say I couldn't get enough of it. It came across my feed, and I saw it, and I was like, those guys know what they're doing. I never consume media like the way that most people do. So I would see it, and then I would talk about it with guests, and guests would be like, holy shit, yeah, those guys. Like, you guys are a standout crew.
I was like the AM that those guys kind of took under their wing.
Right.
Because I wanted to film backcountry snowboarding because my favorite guys like Tadashi and Devin and Duffy and everybody else who filmed in the Whistler backcountry, who was like my favorite. I was like, I want to be like those dudes. And there was nobody filming backcountry snowboarding that was like my age except for Razman. And then the next group above me would have been like Sollers, Rusty, and Belzil. And all those dudes I was good homies with them for sure. But like, I mean, once you start a project together and you travel together for the last 5 years, I mean, like, yeah, those guys are all like brothers now. You know, it's like, it's crazy when you're like homies with somebody and then they turn into your brother, and then like you hate them more, but you love them more at the same time. Because you guys all know so much shit about it. No, they're all incredible. But no, they fully took me under their wing because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to snowmobile. I didn't realize you had to use this tool, a snowmobile, to go out there to be able to snowboard, which was, I mean, I'm 5'8", and at that time I didn't even have any bulk on me, so I was just like a scrawny little dude trying to like, I borrowed Devin Walsh's sled and drove it into a tree and cried in my helmet. And I was like, oh my God, I just wrecked Devin Walsh's sled. Fuck. I have no money. Like, and then I got, anyways.
How do you borrow Devin's sled?
I was on DC at the time, so Devin like was just down because he.
Take
I
my
mean, yeah,
sled.
he was like, I got an extra sled. Like, just take it because I'm the coolest dude in the world.
So nice.
You
that guy.
remember me from such movies as I was just like tripping out. But then, yeah, and then I don't know. Those guys really took me under their wing, and they knew what they're doing. They're safe. I will be forever grateful that all those dudes were just like, yeah, you can be in the crew. Because I was filming with Dope, which was sick.
Yeah.
And it was my favorite because they do rails, but their backcountry, they didn't really have, like Brockle didn't want to buy a fucking camera to go and a sled to go film in the backcountry. Like he would go up like the Hurley to film like on a cat track, but he didn't really want to go all the way out in the mountains and like learn how to use a beacon and probe and shovel and take it that serious. Nor did I'm not even mad at him or anything for like that. You know what I mean? Like he was doing his shit and it was rails because it was like that was. But I knew that I liked riding POW a bit more than riding rails. And I'll always love riding POW a bit more than riding rails. Like I'm from Winnipeg, so I'll always love street shit. That's just like it's tight. I love doing backlips on a snowboard. It just feels good.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, riding powder is just the reason why snowboarding is better than everything else on earth is powder.
Yeah.
And when it's untouched and you're out there with your homies and it's there, I don't care what other thing that you do, sex or you do anything. Once you do powder and you do it right, it's fucking addictive. It's like
insane.
It's the funnest thing ever. And then you have a small group of friends out there in the mountains and you got a freaking panini press and a bonfire. It's just fucking good times, dude.
You're pushing each other.
And then you learn how to ride
day.
your snowmobile.
Yeah.
And then your snowmobile turns into like this tool that you used to hate to this thing that you love. And then it allows you to access. And I do have to say that I wasted a lot of times building these like cheese wedge step like jumps, like building these blocks all the time. And I think that growing up, you know, you watch like Aero Nimla and all those dudes from all the forum dudes, like you just build a jump on a roll. And now it's like I'm so grateful and excited for this new chapter of like just riding the mountain as it is and not really building anything. Not to try and sound like Blauvelt from that Forum movie, but it's just like, fuck, dude, going out there not building anything and just riding, you get way more laps in, and then you ride shit that's just like one of a kind, you know. And I was guilty. I was like one of my favorite snowboarders, Mikey Rentz, would always make fun of me, like, "What are you guys gonna go do? Hit the forum step down again?" Like, I was like, I go to different stuff, but he was like, right. Like, I was just going to the same shit that Devin hit, the same stuff that like JP Solberg hit, the same stuff that Mikey hit, and then at one point I was like, I kind of want to like find my own shit. And then this year, our project. Umami that Rusty edited, we had like 50% more free riding and just riding the mountain as it is. And I think that translated into a lot of people who were kind of over us hitting cheese wedges be like, holy shit, this is like a lot of people I really look up to were like, this was your best video and it's nice to see you guys free ride more.
Yeah.
And like, we're not just free riding like going to Alaska and like riding, you know, client runs and filming it from a helicopter. It's like, well, everybody wants to go to Alaska and ride client runs. Like, but you don't want to see that. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much of that where it's like, okay, like everybody would want to do that. Like, you got to incorporate some sort of like, you know, freestyle boarding.
Hell yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know.
You guys do a great job of it. And Umami was epic, dude. I love that movie. It's the only movie in the last like 5 years that I've watched multiple times. I think I watched it 3 times when it came out. That says a lot about how that snowboarding speaks to me. It's like fun to watch. It gets me amped up to go ride. Beautiful shots. That moon shot was nuts. Oh, that's why I saw it 3 times, because that moon shot was also in the Absinthe film. You guys sold them some of
we didn't really sell them some footage. So a sponsor that paid to be in Absinthe.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think what happened was they had some complications with a rider or whatever being in Absinthe. And they were like, hey, our sponsor, it was Gibbons Après Lager, like the beer, Joey Gibbons from Whistler.
Yeah.
He sponsored our project and he sponsored Absinthe. And then the group that he sponsored to be in Absinthe couldn't whatever be in the movie. So they were like, we have a free spot in Absinthe if you guys want to give them footage. And we were like, oh, free to be in Absinthe? Like, fucking right.
Hell
like,
yeah.
And I mean, like, all my brands were like stoked, like, you know, to get some play in Absinthe.
Yeah.
You know, it was dope. But Yeah, this year I'll be trying to do the K2 movie, which is sick.
What's the K2 movie?
K2 is making a full movie with like the whole team. So with Pat Moore and everybody. I mean, obviously a lot of the guys who ride for K2 ride for vans.
It's crazy.
Parker, Pat, Jake, myself. But so I'm going to try and get out there with the Vans crew and film some stuff. But I mean, like that crew, they already have such a tight-knit pro team that they need to film and prioritize over me. But I mean, I'm hoping that throughout the year I can, get on a few trips and get some clips for their movie as well.
Sick. That's fun. So you take the winters off of painting.
Yeah, No, from November until May, I pretty much just board.
I think if you listen to that Rasmus, when I realize on mic that he still works, I lose my shit.
Well,
wow, what the hell?
Yeah, that's a tough one to swallow, especially if you've been sledding. Like, I've seen all the stuff that Rasmus's done live over the last 5 years, and if you see it live, it's like he is. Everybody who's ridden with Rasmus would love to see Chris get a huge, like a budget like Travis Rice, because Chris is the only snowboarder, I think, on earth that has the potential to be as crazy and as good as Travis.
That's
I think that if Chris had the budget that Travis had, I would love to just see what he's capable on his board if he just had a budget that was infinite. Like, well, there's obviously some of the, Sage and some other people that are maybe more technical on like the jump side of things, but as far as like a big mountain freestyle rider goes, I don't think there's anybody that compares to Chris right now. Like his level of being able to ride natural terrain and land in places that should not be landable is insane.
It's
nuts. And that's just the stuff that he's landed. Like, I've seen all the stuff that he's tried that he's almost landed that you're like, that's not in the movies, and you're like, what? Like, if you would have landed, like, I can't believe that he's like, not on Red Bull. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like Red Bull, but I want Chris to be on Red Bull so I can see what he can do on a snowboard.
I saw a Red Bull car driving around today, and it had like ginger ale on the side, and then it said like organic.
That ain't ginger ale, kids. There's no ginger in that shit.
What if they switch? What if they switch to like organic hippie shit?
Yeah.
Like if they got the smoothie sauce or whatever. And I'm like, I'd love if Red Bull would do that and then give me some money. Take their money.
I mean, like,
once they get out of the drug game, like the bad drug game. The meth game. Any
of the energy drink companies are pretty cheesy in my eyes. It's pretty difficult to see all those kids riding through the park and they have, the star and stuff on their boards.
Yeah.
And just all you see is a giant star and it's smacking you in the face. It's just like that logo is so not tasteful that it's just like
I know.
It almost devalues their snowboarding. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. These energy drink companies are crazy.
Yeah.
Because we don't know the repercussions of them, and we don't even need to get into the topic because it's just like people need to make money so they can snowboard, and they also need to make money to see how far they can take whatever they are trying to take wherever.
Yes,
but it's just like, I don't know. To me, it's just like not a good look,
I hear you, dude. Like that, they have good marketing. Like that monster, the stripes, like that. It's been on so many motocross helmets and things that I have a positive.
That's the only one that I have a little bit of. I do have monsters taking me on a lot of trips, and they've done some dope things for me. So I'm not going to throw them under the bus, but I'm also not going to sit here and be like, slam some monster energy.
Monsters,
fucking right.
Yeah,
No thanks.
Yeah, the test for it is, will I let my kids have it? I'm not buying my kids Monster, but my friend works for Monster, and I'll drink them. They do what they're supposed to do.
They unleash the beast.
They unleash the beast. I am a beast because I'm this with no coffee or anything. So when I have a Monster, I'm a monster.
It's just, I don't know. It's like anything. Once you see somebody throw that energy drink sticker on their board, you're just like, you immediately devalue, or I devalue anything they're doing on their snowboard a bit.
But what about someone like Mark, right? Like, so you just had Mark on the show, and when he listed his sponsors, it went too fast for me to figure out, but it was like
Red Bull, Burton,
Bank of Montreal, and Ford, And I'm like, that didn't devalue anything at all. I was just like going,
Visa,
money, Visa. That's what it was.
Visa and his. I mean, I don't know.
Imagine being sponsored by Visa and the only thing they can give you is visas.
I don't even know how to explain why I don't like that stuff. I just don't. I don't, because the people I looked up to the most growing up, like whether it was Daryl Mathis on that aspect or Mikey LeBlanc. Or even just Baker or whatever, like those dudes. Nobody's got a fucking like monster sticker or red, like you know what I mean, like a Visa. Jeez, and the growing up before that, it's just like the people I looked up to. There wasn't any. It was cool snowboard companies and people who were riding for cool skateboard companies. Yeah. And then that's it. There was no attachments of like, oh, this guy rides for Cheerios. You'd be like, what the fuck? Like, why do you ride for Cheerios? Like, why
They're good, man. I like them. No, it's
why
always
don't you
the
ride for
money thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, why don't you ride for Forum, or why don't you ride for Toy Machine or whatever? You know what I mean? It's just like
I'd love to talk with you about your take on Forum, because I was in the industry. I was working. I was working at the boardroom, and I've loved it and sold it all day long. And now coming into this history thing and talking with a lot of people that were there, like that company was just like so much hype. Like,
dude,
crazy.
The name Forum makes me so happy, but there's the shittiest thing about Forum. There's two Forums. There's Forum, the original Forum, like the Forum 8.
Yeah.
Like True Life, Resistance, like that crew. Like the best shit to ever exist ever.
So fun.
Then there's like the New Age Forum, like just like not like the Fuck It Forum crew and stuff. Like those dudes are sick, you know what I mean? Nothing against them, but that's not the Forum crew. When people say Forum, I think of Special Blend, I think of Foursquare, and I think of that era.
Totally.
And that era brings me so much joy. It's insane.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about the newer age Forum, I think of like the crazy Skittle color phase, like I was saying, that gives me anxiety.
Totally. Yeah.
And like that whole. And like the jumping crew was good, but that's when Videograss came out. Videograss had really good taste in the streets, and the Forum crew at that time. No offense, guys, you guys they were just riding whack rail spots for jibbers. They were winching into giant walls and flipping, and just like that's not for me.
It's a different deal.
And it does. Whoever's listening to this is fine. That's the reason why snowboarding's tight, just like anything else, is that you have your opinion.
Yeah.
But my opinion was that when they started riding rails, there was guys in the Videograss crew that were doing it a lot more tastefully, and I just enjoyed that look more. And Forum originally had that look. Like they had Nate Bozong, like his last like trick, like that board slide on that kink with the long flat where he's wearing like the electric hoodie and those like aviator shades. That clip in my head just like. And like Mikey LeBlanc's cameo with like the straw out of his hat and stuff, and like the vibe and the soundtrack they picked for that, like everything, And I did like Forum that and Fuck It Again and Forum Against Them and stuff. They were still good movies, and I mean like John Jackson and Jake Blauvelt had most insane parts ever in those movies. But when I think of Forum, that Forum 8 crew just brings me so much joy. It's hard to even say.
The thing for me is that the more I poke around in my memories of things, the more inconsistencies I see between that authentic thing that we're after and what was going on. Like, I just think of a company, like I look at those Forum days that you look at so fondly, and I'm like, those athletes weren't even riding Forum boards. They were just putting Forum graphics on board. Like, to me, it's kind of like if my kid was into some brand and the shit that he got like broke and fell apart and I had paid for that, I would be super pissed.
Yeah, I heard the first few years on Forum, those boards were snapping.
They were just garbage. And sometimes the outerwear, you'd pull a thread and like the arm would fall off. Not that bad, but like it was lower quality stuff because they were putting all the money into the athletes, and it was more hype than it was like actual real deal shit.
That's kind of to play devil's advocate here,
Please do.
I've always loved those like smaller brands, and I like, for example, Grenade gloves. When they first came out, Grenade didn't.
Dope.
They didn't have. I knew when I was buying Grenade gloves, they didn't have the best gloves, but I didn't give a shit because I was just like, it's dope that I'll pay the $100 for the Misfits glove that's gonna fall apart.
Totally.
Because I want to be a part of this company, and when some kid would be like, "Whoa, you're buying Grenade gloves? Like, those are just going to break. You should buy these Dakine gloves." You're like, do you understand why I'm buying these Grenade gloves? Like, I'm a part of this army and shit. Like, oh, another plug is that Danny's, like, coaching snowboarding, and he's snowboarding, and I saw him hanging with the Dingo, and Danny Cass was my favorite snowboarder ever growing up. Like, I had an army helmet. I tried to just do Danny.
Sick.
And it was really cool to see him like boarding the other day and hanging out and stuff. Looks like he's doing good.
He was in Florida for a while, and is he out and about?
Yeah, I think he was just busy dealing with like life shit for a bit after his snowboard career. Just like he was probably burnt from doing whatever.
It's got to be tough to go from those like Nike paychecks to like painting.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
Landscaping.
For sure. And like Grenade even falling apart between like, I don't know, him and his brother or whatever happened at Grenade. I actually don't know, but like, you know, when you have a company like Grenade, which was one of the biggest companies, it was like a forum, dude. When Forum was around and you're at like the trade show here a long time ago, and there was a Forum booth and a Special Blend booth, and you're not going to ever think like these companies are going to go to business.
No.
And you see a Grenade booth and Danny Cass is there, and every single pro wrote for those companies. It's just like, there's a big takeaway while we're at the trade show here. Is like, you, as much as you have a core company and it's dope, like you do need the one dude that's business savvy that knows what he's doing, man. Because it gets crazy. Like, look at Nomis, dude. Like that company, it was kind of kooky looking back on it, but like that company was the biggest company to quickly blow up and turn into a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah.
And then just go bankrupt because it just expanded too fast. People didn't know what they were doing.
Much shit goes down that way.
And people like Simone Chamberlain are still have a job when you think like that dude should have retired and been good for life.
Agreed. I got to get him on the show.
Oh, dude.
He's up island, I heard.
Yeah.
I'm going to track that kid down.
Do it,
for sure.
please.
Yeah.
He was another one of my favorite snowboarders ever.
Yeah.
He was one of the biggest. I actually met, I would say, half a group of snowboarders like Simone and a handful of other dudes that were like really nice. And I did meet those other pros. Like they say, don't meet your heroes. I remember going to COC and I met some of those dudes. I was like, whoa, you're a real letdown. Like I'm 15 and I'm wearing your pants. Because you're my favorite boarder ever. And I don't know. So, like, be tight to those kids, man. It goes a long way.
Well, some people's personalities just don't go with that. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, that's what I was going to say when you're talking about Shaun White training by himself. Maybe he's just not that good with people. You know what I mean?
Which is totally respectable.
And some people can, like, just be by themselves. I can't. I want to hang with you.
I really appreciate you playing devil's advocate to that because I feel like I've been giving Shaun a little slack, but I still have like a lot of like, I'm not trying to like be like a dick to, Shaun White, but I'm curious. I would love to do a podcast with him to understand what's in his head.
I don't think we will. Like, it's pretty obvious that he's kind of an arrogant dude. He was an arrogant kid. He became an arrogant teenager. He's an arrogant
I'm going to get him on.
old guy. Maybe he's...
The race to getting Shaun White on the podcast.
Yeah. I'll record it from the bushes behind and just be commenting. Make my questions and then edit you out. Yeah, that would be perfect. Shaun White on the podcast would be good. And the funny thing is, anyone you hate on, right? Like, anyone you hate on for whatever reason, you meet them, you can't hate on them in real life. Like, especially someone like that, he's going to have a big...
I don't even know Shaun. Shaun's never been mean to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I got no beef with him. The guy goes 28 feet in a half pipe. It's like 58 feet. And like
the White Album. Remember the White Album?
Of course, dude.
Like, that was so sick.
Yeah. That was when he still included, like, he had, like, Heikki Sorsa in that. And there was other people in his project. And then I think he went into such a Hollywood rock star world after that first Olympic win.
I think you're right.
That it just was like and to like he would have been at a level that I will never understand what it's like to be like. Neither of us will understand what it's like to turn into like not a Canadian rock star where it's like, I fucking won the Junos. It's like, buddy, no, like he's winning, like he's like the Golden Globe sports athlete of the States. You know what I mean? Like Shaun White.
Yeah.
Like he wins the Olympics shit, and then he also starts winning X Games on a skateboard.
Right.
Like, what?
It's nuts. It's nuts. He's like an A-list celebrity.
I mean, his style did nothing for me forever. I watched him forever, and I was always like, actually, I liked him when he was like 4 years old, because I was like, holy shit, this guy can go huge on hips. And then eventually, I was like, you know, you don't have the best style. Like
Sure.
the way you would do stale fishes in comparison to somebody like Nicholas Mueller does a
Right,
stale fish.
right,
It just
right.
doesn't bring me the same amount of joy.
Yeah, yeah. Did you
Or the
watch
way-
the Nicholas movie, his Fruition?
Oh yeah.
That first shot where they show him coming down, where they're talking about like how he hiked off on his own, and then that shot where it's like, this year's the first year that I have this, where you have an appreciation for the fact that the filmer got it.
Oh, dude.
Like that the shot,
That's cool
he
that you said
nailed
that.
it, but the
Filmers don't get enough credit.
Yeah, they
dude.
don't get enough credit.
Filmers, like, and as of lately, because I like to pick up a camera and shoot photos and film and whatever, but like, the way something's filmed is, it's almost 50-50, you know what I mean? The shot is only as good as the filmer filmed it.
Totally.
And like, if like the pan, especially when you're filming in the streets, you film somebody's like do like a lip slide on a kink or whatever like that, and they ride out, and then they pan to like the kids on the sidewalk or like the homies in the background, and he's like got his hands in like a bunch of popcorn, and you know what I mean? And then like,
Yes.
and he's like screaming and throws the popcorn in the air.
Totally.
It's like the filmer captured that moment, and without the filmer, that moment didn't exist. And it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of filmers who just don't have that artistic ability to capture like amazing stuff on film. And I've worked with a lot of those dudes, and it's really special when you work with somebody who just has a gift.
it,
Like,
yeah.
you know, like there's like some filmers who just have this gift to be able to capture things on film in a way that it just like blows my mind. And like you said, it's just like you don't have that appreciation until one day you're just like, how did that exist? Like a really good example of this is Nicholas Mueller's ender of blank. I forget the video end, but I'm pretty sure it's a back seven. He like ollies into like a shoot, and then he does like a natty back seven.
Yeah.
I forget what movie that's in, but it's his last trick, and the light's crazy, and it's like I would say arguably it's one of the best snowboard filmed tricks ever.
Ever.
Is it a back seven?
I
Do you know
can't
which clip
remember.
I'm talking about?
I know the
though?
clip that
He,
you're
like,
talking about.
Shifties and lands in a shoot, and then
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he does a back seven.
Yeah, yeah. I just went back because Kevin Jones put up his favorite clip of all time on Insta.
What was that?
It's a Noah Selaznick
Oh,
shot
yeah, I
from
saw that. The
TB2.
turns. Yeah.
And that I could remember the moment I first saw that. The video came into the shop, we put it up, and it was like in the opener.
Todd Slosh has a sick part in that.
Yeah.
The slosher.
Totally.
Sloshy had some pretty sick
It was
shifties.
good, dude. And so,
well, not to throw Noah under the bus.
no, I watched it under that lens of like the filmer, and if you watch the pan and like where he moves, it's insane. It's insane that got filmed that well.
It was a front seven melon, Nicholas Mueller's trick.
Front seven
I just
melon.
thought about it.
Front seven melon.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's a little air, and then he does a front seven melon. Wow. I almost
Yeah.
want to like somehow share. I'm going to share that somehow.
Do
Just
it.
gonna post it and just be like, this is the best shot ever filmed. And I don't think anybody would argue that. They'd be like, yep. And I think Nicholas Mueller, out of anybody, has probably filmed some of the best shots.
Because he's
Style, everything.
Because he's legitimately authentic out there. Like it's not for any other.
He's a soul guy for sure, and he's the only dude I want to hear talk about like riding POW and like, you know, when some people are like, yeah, and it's just like being out there in the mountains and it's just epic and you're with your friends and it's just like you don't understand until you're out there and you have an appreciation and it's just like,
Yeah.
dude, nobody wants to hear it. You're 19,
Yeah.
you know. And then when Nicholas Mueller says it, you're like, oh my God, this is beautiful. He sounds like Morgan Freeman.
Yeah,
You're like,
he's so soft-spoken,
Yeah.
hey, and just so like into it.
He can get away
Yeah,
with it, but there's a
I
lot
agree.
of people when they have the voiceovers, I'm like, dude, nobody cares, bro. Wrap it up.
It's hard to watch anybody do anything that they're putting out there. That, you know what I mean? Like, it's so embarrassing for if you see your buddy like trying to talk about how. That's why it's hard to do the podcast, is because when you're listening back to your own voice, saying, "Oh, okay, I want to say it that way." Really? I'm going to put that out there in
Yeah.
front of everybody. I'm going to tell them how I feel about snowboarding. That sounds lame.
Well, it's tough because it puts you in that state of vulnerability again.
Totally.
Because you're like, does anybody really care about how we feel at snowboarding? But like, inevitably, it's true that people do apparently because people are listening to your podcast.
I guess so.
You know what I mean?
Maybe they're just listening to it for the guests. That's
Well,
what I always think.
But the one thing is, the cool thing that I've come to realize is that I don't give back a lot, but it's the cool thing with the podcast is you're actually giving back because there's a lot of people who do really want to hear like what happened at Kearns, like do really want to hear what's Sheen been up to. They do want to hear what Cale Stevens been doing, what Mikey Rentz has been doing.
Right.
And when you do these people, there's a lot of people who've been following these dudes for years, and without people like you, and then I guess me,
of course.
they get to like hear from their favorite dudes. Because like when I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast or whatever, I'm not like I can't wait to hear what Joe Rogan says. I like Joe.
It's true.
He's
I'm
sick,
the same.
but
Right.
and I'm grateful that he does the podcast, but I'm listening to it for the guest.
You're picking the guest.
And
yeah.
I mean, I've never
me
really
too.
started this podcast, and I know you didn't either, to be like, oh, it'll be cool because like people want to hear like my voice. It's almost like I just think it'll be cool to interview people that I've always wanted to talk to.
Same.
Like about snowboarding with, because I
Same.
think these people are fucking sick. You know what I mean? Like I can't wait to do all the people you've done, and then like you do all the people, and then you just get to have epic conversations with the people who've shaped snowboarding.
That's the absolute best. My favorite thing is when you look in your guest's eyes while they're telling a story and they realize something about their life, like how great their fucking life was.
Exactly.
They're like, oh my God.
How great all of our life. We live in
believe
Canada,
that.
and you got to ride at Mount Seymour your whole life. Like we didn't go to World War I.
Yeah, exactly.
I just saw 1917. So
How is it?
It's epic. It's shot a little different. It's not as good as one of my favorites, Saving Private Ryan.
I love Saving Private
too.
Ryan. Did you watch Dunkirk?
Yeah.
It seems to
Dunkirk
me like it
was
would be
pretty
like
good.
it
It's
would
similar.
be like similar to Dunkirk.
It's more similar to that than it is to like an action-y. But I guess the story 1917, it follows one guy or two guys.
Yeah.
Inevitably one. Oops. Spoiler alert.
Oh shit. We spoiled
it's
it.
crazy. Yeah, dude, I like stories that have more than one guy in it, you know what I mean?
Sure,
like,
sure.
But other than like James Bond and shit, you know what I mean? That's fine.
Right.
But like,
Bringing it back to the Man Boys, it's like that's your crew. That's your army experience. Is like the shit you go through with those guys is your formative years going to war.
Yeah.
Trying to make that movie, watching your friend break himself in half trying to do something that's insane.
I've had like 4 really impactful crews. I had like my first crew from Winnipeg, which was called Gypsy Mob, which was like with Jake Kuzik, Jeeves, and all like so like and Jesse, who was just here at the trade show with us.
Yeah.
And then after that crew, I had like a Sandbox for a bit, but like
Sick.
that was a little bit of a family. But then it was 8 Mile. 8 Mile really, like Mikey Rentz and Arrow and Johnny Lyle, they really took me under their wing, and Benji and stuff like that. Those guys were all like my heroes, and like really like those were the first pros that were like, I guess like in my head, like we're like, you're cool enough to hang with us. And I was like, and that's your dream. Like that's, as a kid, you're like,
yeah,
I couldn't be happier to like just be in their presence. You know what I mean?
Amazing.
And then Brockle started his stuff, Dope Industries. And then those were like my best friends starting another thing. And I was like, so that was the best thing. And then when I wanted to go more into the backcountry and then Man Boy started, it's like, you know, so that like, it's fun to see these transition through different crews. There's my life, and it's like and then what a life, and it's like every one of those crews is a little bit different. And I mean, wow, what an amazing group of people, because it's been sick.
Jody, thank you for doing this FNRad Snowboard podcast.
You bet.
I fucking admire your riding, and you're doing great with your podcast, the Airtime podcast.
Likewise.
And congratulations on all the sponsorship stuff that you've been able to get. It's all well deserved, and I'm looking forward to this K2 movie. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm going to put some work into it, and make sure you tune into the new Vans project that's coming out. That's going to be the movie. I mean, I don't know. Is the Vans project going to be better, or the K2 one? I don't know. I'm excited though to hopefully be a part of both of those. But I mean, whenever Vans makes a project, it's incredible.
So
and
good.
this is the time for K2 to make a project and then do it right. And they will, because the filmer they have behind it, Seamus, is incredible, and the team manager Tom knows what he's doing. So it's
Rad.
gonna be
And we
sick.
finally have snow. So
And we have snow.
Yeah, it's time to make those shots.
Yo,
Hey,
thanks
get
so
out
much
there.
for having me, dude. I really appreciate. I've always wanted to come on your show. I'm a big
Oh,
fan.
sick, dude.
Thanks
Thank you.
Thanks for getting the guys on and
Yeah.
and doing snowboarding right.
Thanks for showing up on time, even early, and for bringing it. I love that.
You bet, guys.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Peace. FNRad shoutouts this week to Mike Strato at Vans and all the people at Vans that helped make the no-show booth happen. Thanks, guys. Thanks to Perry for making the entire no-show happen, and also for getting my wife and I into the Slack Tie event. Special thanks to Cypress, Grouse, and Seymour. I rode at all 3 local mountains this week. You guys are awesome. Thanks to all the guests that popped by the no-show booth to record repisodes or bonus episodes, which I'll be putting out later on. The audio is kind of shitty when there's music playing in the background, but yeah, we'll get that out there as bonus content. Thanks to Tantalus Labs for educating me on marijuana retail in Canada. That's another future bonus episode. And special thanks this week to John Roth at Crow's Nest for hooking my son Bowen up with another haircut. Be sure to come back next week for another episode of the FNRad Snowboarding Podcast, presented by Vans and brought to you by SIA Productions.